Welcome back to the program. My name is Mike Megwi. This is People and Politics, and in studio I'm joined by Joseph Mathai, who is a governance expert. And let's go right into the papers. On the first page of Daily Nation, why CJ wants life sentence scrapped. And now the judiciary has tabled two bills in the National Assembly that proposes sweeping changes to the Penal Code and the Criminal Procedure Code, including readjustment of sentences for the murder and robbery to ensure proportionate punishment, and the abolishment of life sentences, which will be replaced with a maximum sentence of 30 years. Of course, that story you will get it on the page on page 4 of Daily Nation. Bwana Mathai, do I know your thoughts about this move by the CJ?
Of course, you know, we are also members of international community. Yes. As a country. We have to be, you know, at equal with what is happening across the board in other jurisdictions. Mm-hmm. And I think when I listen to all this, I think we are just going towards the direction where other countries are. Mm-hmm. And of course, you know, like in this country, we still have like the capital punishment. Yes. But it has been almost overtaken by events. Yes. So I think it's all good. Yes. I think nobody should lead that it is about lessening the burden. It's just because most people don't commit crimes when they are 0 years. Yes. But they are at a certain level, and 30 years of maturity, you know, in terms of punishment, I think is something very adequate. All right. Another story on the Daily Nation, page 5 of Daily Nation, is UDA kicks Sakaja allies out of key assembly posts in the assembly. The ruling party accused the officials of failing to unite its members. The ruling party UDA yesterday kicked out minority leaders at the Nairobi County Assembly, most of whom are close allies of Governor Johnson Sakaja. The officials are accused of failing to unite members, and in a statement to the Assembly, Speaker Ken Ngodi, UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala named Nairobi South MCA Waithera Chege as the new minority leader, replacing Anthony Kirago Karanja of Waithaka Ward. What is happening in the UDA party within Nairobi? What's going on? I think we can, you know, politics. Yes. Political parties have very dynamic nature, mm-hmm. you know, in themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think you can ask what is happening in parties, because if you look at all the parties, maybe they haven't made it to the headlines. Mm-hmm. There's always changes because there's always that fleeting change of interests. And you see, especially the leadership in the houses, mm-hmm. or in the assembly for mm-hmm. members. Mm-hmm. I think when I looked at what, you know, they are raising issues of, you know, representing the welfare of members. Yeah. So you can see these are leaders who are elected by the MCAs themselves. And other than now the association with the governor and such things, I think that purely is an issue of the House. And remember, there is always negotiations about budget, mm-hmm. about welfare, and if these MCAs feel that the leadership they have at the moment is not representing them, you know, in the best interests, mm-hmm. I'm sure the Secretary General has no choice mm-hmm. but to ratify the needs of those people. Remember, this is Nairobi County. Yes. Kajiado may be feeling differently. Yes. Because, again, I think you cannot deny people that particular freedom. Yes. to choose who represents them. Yes. Because it's a whole issue about maybe even the agenda of the party. Mm-hmm. And I think now as we listen more, we'll look at the new leadership and see if they are going to do things differently. Oh, yes. Yeah.
All right. More pain at the pump looms if the new levy gets a nod. The Kenya Roads Board is seeking to increase the road maintenance levy to by 5 shillings to cater for inflation, the cost of road construction materials. More pain at the pump. That means Kenyans are bound to pay. They are going to feel the pinch, especially in the comes because when we talk about more pain at the pump, Kenyans, the first thing that comes into the minds of Kenyans, high cost of living. Why? How do we address this?
What? You know, this is very dicey, if I would say.
Yeah.
Because one, we need good roads.
Yes.
Already, when you say more pain, it means already there is pain.
Yes.
But then again, you look at the factors. I think even factors like what is happening in the war in Israel currently will still or may still add more pain.
Yes.
And I think now for particularly that particular 5, you said 5, Bob?
Yes.
For roads.
For roads,
because
yes.
of
for roads.
Yeah, because of to cater for the depreciations and everything. And I think that one we can take. Because again, repairing a shock could be more expensive than that extra 1 shilling on the liter.
Yes.
But I think if you do not look at the particular intention of that increment, surely this fuel issue has a serious impact on the cost of living. And other than, you know, being aware of the environment where we are in, the global pressure on the price of oil and everything. So I think we just hope, because that then on the benefits of what that money will do, that there will be some bit of balance. Yeah.
Another story that is making the headlines on the Daily Nation. Squatters on Kirema's city land given up to December 31st to leave or face bulldozers. That story is told on page 12 of the Daily Nation. And the hundreds of squatters who settled on the 1,000 acres parcel of land in Nairobi's Njiro area belonging to the family of former Starehe MP Gershon Kirema may have up to December to leave or force eviction. Now, if you consider this story and what is happening in Mavoko, the question that comes to mind is, what do people do due diligence when they are buying land, especially in urban areas? Do they do due diligence, ascertaining that this land does not have cases, belongs to this person I'm buying from? Do we do that? What are views on that?
I think you should have asked the question whether they know. Do they know?
Yes.
The steps that you need to take, the documents, the different levels of due diligence you're speaking about. Remember, this story of people just being told Muradi and they go and build without caring, while they are so careful about the logbooks of their car, which doesn't cost as much as a house, that it will tell you that there is a lot of awareness that needs to be done. Because every person's aspirations is to own a home, especially here in the city.
Especially because paying rent is
very expensive. And so then, I think if you look historically from 2002, when some people had to be cleared from a very high profile, very high-end, Kitsuru, to pave a road that would benefit many people. That happened with that government of Mwai Kibaki. Then, of course, there was land near the airport when we were about to get accreditation to fly to America direct, and the people had just built up to the wall. And when you ask them, what documents do you hold? Nothing. Land building company or whatever. I think then that brings a whole debate about fraud, as I said earlier, and the steps that you need And also, I think government must now think about how to protect the people.
Which also brings the question, why wait until people build, then demolish their houses?
But you see here, that's what I'm bringing here,
yes.
that now must be forestalled. And I think it begins by the institutions that own land, or people who own land. Or we find a way that can forestall this before things go too far.
Yes.
Because again now, you find it is demolition or regularization. But I think these must speak to Kenyans that land issue, especially acquisition of land, you must begin with, first of all, doing a search, know whether that person who is telling you they own this land and they want to sell it to you, whether they are the legitimate owner.
Yes.
Then you must involve a lawyer,
yes.
where there must be an agreement. And number two, you must go to a board until you get your own title deed. But what we have heard from those two cases is that even those buildings have not been approved. And you see the gullibility of Kenyans, that you can even put a full
apartment
billboard,
yes.
and warn Kenyans, buyer beware. A governor writes even a letter and invites agencies like EACC and everything. And then people just go ahead. There is a degree of impunity on the people themselves,
yes.
and ignoring every other thing. But I think your question is, why allow people to go all that far?
Yes, until they build, then you start coming to...
And I think that must be addressed.
Yes.
We must find a way.
Yes.
And there's a way Kenyans debate things. And now, with this ruling of recent about the Jiro Kirima land,
yes.
it can tell you, I think now we need almost an inquiry of what is happening across the country, so that, again, we protect the Kenyan.
People have invested money. People have invested money in those buildings,
yes.
and they want to get away from the... They want to have a good life,
yes.
which is why they're investing in these lands and building houses, only for them to get demolished later. So I think that is something that needs to be addressed as fast as possible, because people are buying land every day. But the problem is, do they know the process, as you have said? Do they do due diligence? Those two things are very crucial to the aspect of buying land, especially in urban areas.
You're right.
Let's look at the Daily Nation, the Standard, sorry. Murderers to get lighter sentences. This is according to the Standard, and there are radical proposals by the Chief Justice Martha Koome, who is asking MPs to change the penal code, hence making punishment for capital offense less severe in light of global conventions, just like you have said. Now, another story here on the Standard, page 4 of the Standard. The cost of living is now on the agenda of the National Dialogue Team's talks. The committee exploring what constitutes immediate, medium, and long-term solutions. The team has agreed on a number of issues, including auditing of elections. The issue of cost of living, it's very... I'd say it's very dear to Kenyans, because it's affecting their daily livelihoods. It's affecting how they are living. And the team, the committee, the National Dialogue Committee, this was not in the Kenya Kwanza faction had said this will not be among the issues they talk about during their talks. Now the Azimio leaders now threatened to walk out of the talks. But now, what do you think will be the outcome of this,
I think,
as far as cost of living is concerned?
You see, I think would rather all be on the table.
Yes.
Like you said, this is an issue that unites the whole country.
Yes.
Actually, when you go back to the campaigns,
yes.
it was again at the core
yes.
of the promises that
yes.
were made. But then you'd rather have everyone on the table than people just blaming from outside. Because again, in politics, people will just misrepresent issues.
Yes.
And on the same note, we have to allow the government that was voted in by the people of Kenya to also implement its own manifesto. But now, on specific proposals, I think now the opposition can now table specific proposals that will address the cost of living other than blame game. And I think now this will bring temperatures down. Because in politics, you have to work with a bit of compromise, a bit of consultation, a bit of, crossing the ranks. Because again, I think all leaders represent the interest of Kenyans. So I think now we should wait and see what comes out of it. But you see, the government has not stopped, from addressing the whole issue, because they are the people with the mandate to be able to continue to serve Kenyans. And I think when you speak the cost of living, I've listened to the president, and he has been very categorical that we are going to, especially on food, focus on production. A time like this is also a time to tell people, and I'm happy that there is no sufuria on the streets, that people could just go to the farms and see if they can also address the issue of food production and the whole issue about fertilizer, and farming, and trying to see if we can, first of all, even before we address fuel, that we have been able to satisfy our basic, needs in terms of food.
The common mwananchi, when we talk about the cost of living, the common mwananchi would ask, why then are you taxing us? Why with the taxation? It's too much.
I think the other question is that what are you doing with our money?
Yes.
And I think we have seen a revamped, health insurance fund that now has been signed into law. We have seen the justification about the housing fund and, in terms of creation of jobs for our young people, a bubble that should be able to scare everyone if those people are not taken care of. And then again, the benefit of affordable housing. And the president saying that he will take the bullet, literally, if any of those funds is misappropriated. Then at that point, we can carry the burden, knowing that when you go to schools, there is capitation in primary, there's capitation in secondary school, and people are not paying as much. When you go to your dispensary, you're going to find a medic and medicine, and you're going to move on good roads. I think as a country, we must bear that. But then again, you remember, stabilizing this economy, just not many months ago, there was almost a debt stress in this country. When we were just looking into almost defaulting as a country, our international commitments. I think this regime, this government has been able to do that. And where is that money going to come from? That money is going to come from us. So for me, since if you look at how these taxes become, how the taxes are formalized, it is our people, the people we send to parliament, who must formalize these until the president is able to append the signature and they become law. And there is a lot of public participation. Memorandums are written. And I think the most robust debate was about the finance bill, which even went up to, I think, Supreme. And the president was given a go-ahead. Because you see, I don't think there's any regime that would want to fall, to antagonize Kenyans and not be favored. But again, if you have a plan, about what you want to do, I think, and then Kenyans look at you and say, I think our money is being put into good use, they are going to support you. So I think that is where we should be looking at in terms of accountability, in terms of cutting of, what we have been hearing about, wastage in government, about, unnecessary expenditure like
the president
trips.
Was very vocal
and I have
about
seen, I've seen circulars in the press about curbing of even delegations that can go to places with the president, with the members of the cabinet.
Yes.
And I think now if we get into that path of austerity, we become frugal as a country. And maybe 1 year down the line, people are able to see that you can have dialysis done at your local hospital. You can have cancer, detected at your local hospital without traveling to Kenyatta, like what was happening previously.
Yeah.
And this also now puts in the county government, because everyone who has been elected and is in office has been put there just to make sure that the life of Kenyans is, good,
yes,
and the country is developing,
yes,
and the whole environment of making our country secure. We have had challenges, the attracting foreign direct investors.
Yes.
So I think that is where my focus would be. That Kenyans now must be more vigilant,
yes,
in terms of how their taxes are being used.
Yes.
So that then, maybe 1 year down the line, we can look back and say, now the burden is lessening because of the sacrifices we made here and there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. There's a story on... there's a story of the Standard talking about state evicts Masai Mau forest encroachers as city resettles others. The settlers in Narok North constituency were rendered homeless following the second week of evictions. We take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We continue with our what is happening in the headlines, and right now I want us to take a look at on the first page of the Star. Why newborn deaths spiral out of control? This story is continued on page 4. Is told in detail on page 4 of the Star. Why newborn deaths still high despite state efforts? A new report has discredited the efficiency of government programs and billions pumped into initiatives to curb maternal and neonatal death. The report by Auditor General Nancy Gathungu follows the fresh launch of universal health care coverage by President by President William Ruto. Ruto relaunched universal health care, which among others seek to dramatically reduce maternal and child deaths. What's your views on this story, Bwana Mathai?
I think there's a time we had almost what you can call a hiatus on the community health workers.
Yes.
And these are the people who are like Nyumba Kumi. They identify, challenges, health challenges, including maternal health, and are able to refer to make sure that the women are going for prenatal and all that. And I was all smiles when I saw in Kericho, the return of the health workers,
yes,
who are going to be now almost formally embedded in the health infrastructure at the county levels. Because remember, everything is awareness. People, you might have all those programs and facilities at the hospital, but if people are not aware, they are not going to go to clinics. Yes. And that can seriously contribute to that. Yes. I think that issue again can just be related to issues of those agricultural extension officers.
Yes.
People are just going to farm traditionally, yes, until you come and tell them how, to do, because of the advance in technology and new ways of doing things. Yes. So I hope part of, and I'm sure, part of all that work for the health, those community health workers, and I think the president was very, eloquent on that, was to make sure that we do not reach at the level of treatment.
Yes.
It is about, what we would call now the primary health itself,
Yes.
about lifestyle, about diet, about all that, and accessing healthcare before
it's too late.
It's too late.
Yes.
So I think then with that, we should be able to see an improvement.
Yes.
And I think, again, it will involve issues of immunization, because you see it's people just knowing that at these 2 weeks you need to do this, at 4 weeks you need to do this, or 4 months. So I think we should be able to lead a different story when this is now freshed out in the entire country.
All right. Another story on the Star. A man is still missing a month after his abduction in Lamu. That you can read that story on page 3 of the Star. Then Ruto and Raila teams to retreat to hammer out a deal, and Kalonzo appeals for good faith during the period. The National Dialogue Committee, charged with midwifing talks between President William Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga, have retreated to Nakuru for a week-long negotiation on the sticky issues. The committee is co-chaired by National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wa and former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka. Another story going on in the Star newspaper is how the new intersex bill could trigger fresh LGBTQ debate. The Criminal Procedure Code Amendment Bill 2023 is raising new concern over inclusivity role. Azimio vows to paralyze the parliament over minority whip changes delay. The delay in changing the minority leadership, largely blamed on inaction by House Speaker Moses Wetangula, is expected to trigger a political storm as MPs resume sittings today. Opposition MPs are already breathing fire and have pledged to scuttle House business during afternoon session. They want Wetangula to announce Embakasi West MP Mark Mwenje as the deputy minority whip, who is supposed to replace MP Sabina Chege. This has been going on for some time. What will come out of this?
Okay, I think first of all, this is an issue again, like what is happening at the county assembly of Nairobi. It's an Azimio matter, and I think now answering your question, what will come out of it? I think democracy will be more strengthened, because people have a right to resort to seek legal redress when they think their rights have been infringed. I've been following the whole issue about Jubilee and its membership and its leadership and all the arguments. But I think now we are at the level where the court has pronounced itself, and the speaker had asked for time, you don't serve the speaker through the media. Like now, I come here and announce that the court ruled, so you should rule like this. And I think what will happen is that that institution called Parliament is a place of order and procedures and rules, and I think they will survive. But now the whole issue about paralyzing or not paralyzing, these are things that are used in politics to attain a certain end. I'm sure the other side also has a way of countering that. But I think at the end of the day, in this country, when you compare us with our neighbors, I think Kenya is like 30 years ahead, in terms of democracy and our freedoms. This will not happen in any one of countries that is around us, even if you look at the whole political environment. So when I see things like this, I don't get depressed. I'm happy because at the end of the day, we are going to have precedents that will guide this kind of a scenario in future. But I think you should not wake up and just say that now, Mike, you have to get out of this. I can say, oh, no, I think you have not come in the right way. I go and look for legal redress. But I think it's purely coalition matter, and a solution will be found, and democracy will be enriched.
Right. One more story on the Star newspaper. Thousands of health workers to take mandatory IT courses. IT specialists demand PAC, saying they are part of the healthcare delivery. You can read that story in details on the 10th page of the Star newspaper. Let's now look at the People Daily. Late by election, voters sues IBC. The electoral petitioner wants court to order selection team to name new officials who can conduct poll to replace dead MP, as CEO Marjan says staff cannot move or change boundaries without commissioners. That story is continued on page 4 of the People Daily. And if I can get into detail, the absence of commissioners has left the electoral agency unable to execute its mandate according to law. Operations of the IEBC have been paralyzed, and the agency left irrelevant due to the absence of commissioners since January, after Chairman Wafula Chebukati and 6 commissioners left at different points. Bwana Mathai, when does the IEBC, how can IEBC commission be made functional as at now? Because they do not have a chairman, they do not have commissioners.
I think when you think about where we are currently,
yes,
I think it is one of the things that must be addressed,
yes,
by this dialogue committee.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, the president had already appointed a select committee.
Mm-hmm.
And it is now like we are in a situation because we cannot have those by-elections.
Mm-hmm.
And because basically the commissioners have to be the one, you know, overseeing this. It is very clear.
Yeah.
But I think now, as a country, we are also alive at where we are, mm-hmm, as a country.
Yes.
And I think with a bit of time, and if I've heard you right, yes, the team is retreating to just come up with you know, some recommendation. And I think in that area is just either, mm-hmm, to reconstitute the selection panel, mm-hmm, and have the IEBC, mm-hmm, properly constituted.
Yes.
Because we've seen, I'm also an Africa elections observer,
uh-huh,
and elections are hot.
Very hot, especially in Africa.
In Africa.
Yes.
And I think that is an issue that Kenyans are looking at, yes, so that then we still have an IBC, mm-hmm, reconstituted, mm-hmm, that will have the full trust of Kenyans, yes, that it will deliver the by-elections and the next election.
Yes.
And I think then it's just about giving time, mm-hmm, to the committee. Mm-hmm. But I think we have positions that are vacant, mm-hmm, and you know the law is very clear. Yes. If upon, you know, writ issued by Parliament, yes, I think in 90 days you are supposed to have, you know, an election.
Yes.
Because the people of that particular area, whether it's a ward or a constituency, have a right to be represented.
Yes.
So I think then this is a reminder that this is a process that must be fast-tracked, mm-hmm, so that then we can, everyone's right is protected.
Yes.
But again, like I said, we are in a, you know, in a special, you know, in a, you know, special time.
Yes.
Because of our history, uh-huh, where we have come from.
Yes.
And I think it was magnanimous, mm-hmm, of Kenya Kwanza itself to say now, okay, we had appointed this selection committee. Yes. First of all, just chill.
Yes.
And so that then everyone feels that they have a voice, yes, on that table.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There's an interesting story on
the third, page 3 of the People Daily. And it concerns something we talked about, cost of living. 49% of Kenyans are not happy with their financial situation. Are you happy with your financial situation?
Happiness can be rated from 0 to 10.
Yes.
Maybe I'm not at 10, and those 49% are not at 10%. Yes. But I think what would break Kenyans' heart is if there was no deliberate efforts, to get out of this.
Yes.
And we know it's not a switch somewhere that anyone will come and just say off or on. These are steps that we are all in it. We must do our part.
Yes.
We must learn from our past mistakes.
Yes.
And I think without having to go back, because people are, I'm saying they are just being promised. But I think there's so much doing that is happening. But and the results are being sectoral. This sector, some sectors are already now realizing a lot of progress towards getting out of that morass. You cannot say that Kenyans are not right when they say they are not happy. But I am happy that it is now almost 50-50. If you had done this in like 5 months ago, maybe you would have found 79 were not happy. Yes. But now it is now 49%. Yes, maybe now 3 months ago it was 79% were not happy. Only that the research was not done. So I think then in another 3 months we should be able to see how many, are not happy.
Yes.
Because with the and I'll go back to saying that when you produce your own food, it's like printing your own money. So I would add Kenyans to continue taking advantage of the rains, plant food, because that carries the biggest chunk of, the cost of living. Yes, if people have food across the country, I can tell you, not many of us are moving and being affected by the other things. But I think that voice of 49% is what is now informing the government that austerity measures must be taken and deliberate steps to address that particular, sentiment, so that then we have happy Kenyans by the end of the year.
But then again, a person in the village would ask, when do we start seeing positive results? Because we are past 1 year since the Kenya Kwanza government took office.
Yes.
When do we start seeing results? When does it get better? Because even as we are talking about food production, we're also talking about money in the pocket.
Yes.
When do we start seeing positive results?
But you see, how do we even measure positive results? I told you, when you find medicine, and that one has been addressed. The streamlining of, KEMSA, the new health insurance scheme that now puts everyone on board. These are not promises. These are things that are now being implemented. And of course, I'm sure you have gone, around the country. The last time I hit a pothole, I mean, it's long. So we must also remove our measure of cost of living from just cost of 1 or 2 items, because the whole thing is holistic. If you have to fundraise for health, there's a time this country, there were 1 million WhatsApp groups just fundraising, for people to access almost what you'd call, basic medical care in this country. But that's not to say that we are not looking at prices of basic commodity and Kenyans expect them to go down. But how does that happen? You see, previously we were just in the other, administration, we were obsessed with the subsidies. And basically subsidies are also financed by taxation, which is almost a zero-sum game. You see, and that's why we're saying now, a bit of burden, then we get out of this. Yeah.
All right. Another story on page 6 of the People Daily. Oral national exams begin as NEC warns on data sharing. The Examinations Council urges center managers to adhere to exam rules to avoid facing sanctions in the Act. The 2023 KCSE commenced yesterday with the oral papers, even as the national examining body warned against sharing of exam papers. The exam started with French, German, Arabic orals, and also Kenya Sign Language practical signing skills, as well as music practicals. Would you talk about a little bit how we prepare for exams? How we prepare for exams every time we are having national exams? Because there are times you will hear cases of exam malpractices. How, in your own view, how is the situation right now, in your own observation?
First of all, let me start by wishing all the candidates success. It's a very important thing, in our country. All the people who are facing exams. And of course, you know that this is the last class 8 we're going to have. And if, Mike, you can remember where we are coming from as a country. From when the late Professor Makoha took over as the chair of the Kenya National Examinations
Council.
I think we have made tremendous steps. Actually, now holding a certificate from this country holds a lot of water. We have seen, we have, even in the last election, you saw, the debate was around the veracity of certificates, and very serious leaders being put into their defense about the papers they hold. Today, if you're appointed in any place, the first thing you do is submit your papers to EACC. And that is good, so that even as we export our most important resource as a country, which is a human resource, our people are respected out there. And I think nobody would ask for our nurses and police and professionals if then our whole examination process was in question. And what has happened is that it is not the cases that have gone up, it is the whole issue about scrutiny. The council is able to detect, cases of cheating, and we have seen schools and even individual candidates being punished, because again, we're also a country of shortcuts and deals here and there. But I think the gap is narrowing. And I think there was a time even schools would collude, so that then they would appear in the papers and number one. And I think the whole grading issue of school has also stemmed down, the urge to cut corners. So I think we are going to have a clean election. Remember, it's a multi-agency approach, where now the whole security apparatus are involved, and many stakeholders, including the parents and teachers' organization, to make sure that we deliver a clean election, a clean examination, exam for our kids. Because with that, there are so many things, because we are changing into CBC curriculum based, where now the system is supposed now to identify, and I think there was a story like that was run earlier, that the TVETs now must be in a position to address our industrial needs, because from building to roads, it's all TVET. So I think that urge of AAA is leaving, because people, in this country, including those kids who are doing exams, have seen people thrive in music, have seen people thrive in arts, have seen people utilize their talents, including just a marathoner dashing out of the country, run and comes back. So I think there's no much pressure. There was too much pressure. And that's why the change of curriculum had to come, so that then people focus on their talents and their interest in terms of what they would want to come, to become and serve this country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. There's a story on page 12 of the People Daily. Senate invites East Africa, the EACC to probe Nyandarua expenditure. A Senate watchdog committee that has directed the Ethics and the Anti-Corruption Commission to pitch tent in Nyandarua County to investigate the questionable expenditure of at least 785 million incurred by the administration. The Senate Public Accounts Committee flagged various financial malpractices at the county government and asked the Anti-Corruption Agency to take a keen interest in the queries raised by the Auditor General Nancy Gathungu to establish fraud, corruption, and other financial improprieties. How do we keep track of county government's expenditure? Because there are cases where some counties have been accused of misappropriating funds.
No, I think it is not only the county, government.
Yes.
It is every or any institution that spends public money, money from your taxes. And that's why we have the Office of the Auditor General. That's why we have now Senate specifically there to look at counties and audit them. Because I think I heard a minister say that if you are investing and not inspecting, then you don't know what you are going to expect. And I think when you find, questionable expenditure, actually that is not that they have been indicted. It's just a flag that has been raised, so that then the agencies that are being financed by, again, the taxpayer, the EACC, the DCI, the Office of Auditor General, the PAC, in Parliament, must do their job. And I remember at one point the Senate talking about, getting a bigger budget to enable them to do their function of audit, because that is very important. If there is no malpractice, well and good, we'll know that that particular resource has gone into what is going to improve. I think the people of Nyandarua, I'm not from that particular region, but I know they want good roads for their produce. Remember, that is the bread basket for Nairobi.
Yeah.
So I think it should go to every institution where now, so that at the end of the day, we know that our taxes are being put into good use, including the national government and its agencies, so that then we begin to adopt, a culture of transparency and, good use of public resources.
Yes.
They should never go to
waste.
To waste.
Yes.
And they don't go to waste. They go to personal, personal benefits, and that should not be the case.
Yes.
In total, we have about, 900,000 workers who, on a daily basis, execute, government on behalf of the people of Kenya, both at national, I think national and county, forever, and every shilling must count. If it is for roads, that money must go to roads. So I think that is a very positive step by the Senate, because again, that is why they were elected, and that's why they have a budget to be the eyes of Kenyans, as far as, the counties are concerned.
What if there is a scenario where the EACC was given prosecutorial powers? They do the investigation,
and then go ahead and prosecute. How would that have turned out in the fight against corruption, in your view?
I think, you know, we are all guided by the 2010 Constitution. And it was not passed in a room like this. It went to a referendum. And I think Kenyans had, you know, envisioned a situation of checks and balances, and, you know, and I think our courts, we have, you know, anti-corruption courts, courts that just deal with corruption cases. And you see, we can't say that they should be able to do that in a day or two. Or we execute people in Uhuru Park. Because again, the same 2010 Constitution talks about, you know, due process. People assumed, you know, innocent until they are proven guilty. What maybe we would ask is for the courts to, or rather the judiciary to allocate more resources so that these cases are expedited, you know, in a faster way, so that then justice is served to the people of Kenya, especially where the you know, there's malpractice in what you would call public finances. Yeah.
Now, there's a story on the back page of the Daily Nation that lobby seeks to hold costly varsity loans and funding plan. The Kenya National Human Rights Commission has filed a case at the High Court seeking to stop the Ministry of Education from implementing the funding of model for higher education, which was unveiled by President William Ruto in May. The suit before the Constitutional Human Rights Division comes as first-year students in universities, technical and vocational training institutions wait for the outcome of the application seeking the government financial support. What do you think of the new funding model for university students?
I think it is revolutionary. And I've looked at the way we react as a country. Anything new, there's a way we go through stages. We go through stages of rejection. Then I think then we realize, we understand. I listened, there was a serious town hall debate between university dons, parents, and even students. And then, even if we are going to panel beat what we have at the moment, I think we can go back to what I used to access funding, HELP. You know, we can't go back there. HELP was a facility that is as old as many of us when we were in the university in the 90s. And this new funding model addresses the current, you know, scenario, including how, you know, things have changed in terms of, you know, expense, including looping in, you know, kids in private universities, and being able to profile, you know, people from very poor backgrounds to, you know, in terms of how eligible you are. I think the debate must continue about how to make this particular facility better. But I think there can never be a return valve because it is something that has been thought through. But I told you, there's a way we deal with new things, including CBC. There was a huge debate about why it is not as good as the previous ones. But I think most of these proposals are also modeled around best practices and where the whole world is heading.
Joseph Mathai there speaking to us as we dissect what was in the headlines. My name is Mike Megwe. We take a short break. Good Morning Kenya continues shortly.